Hi, welcome to the Q&A for Sementara, directed by Joant, Úbeda, and Chiew, Chia, Shao. Thank you for taking time to this post screening Q&A. So let's get on to it. We do have a question that came in through the inquiries channel, which is as good a place to start as any. What inspired you to create this piece of documentary?
To be honest, it started off as a small project in the documentary class in film school that I was taking. And what was required to show at the end of that semester, our documentary project. And I was kind of stuck because I wanted to do something that really spoke to me. And I was watching many references and many things, and I thought they were good, but it wasn't something that I wanted to go out and do until I saw this film called Le Joli Mai by Chris Marker, which means the lovely month of May, which was made in 1963 during the like the hippie movement and the space race and the Cold War, and I think it was a French-Algerian war finishing, and a lot of migration to France. So all this was happening in this time span in that time of the film, and so I watched it and it blew my mind because Chris Marker and the cinematographer just went around town, and you can feel them behind the camera, but you can also feel the emotions of the people they talk to, and it was very raw and a lot of thematics of religion and love and militarization and fears and goals. So we just felt that I was like, wow, this is something I want to try, even if it's a smaller version of it. This is something I want to try. So at the time, I sort of started to know, we got to meet Xiaomin and and I think our sensibilities were kind of starting to be aligned at that point, and it was just perfect timing for me to pitch to her to say, hey, this is a film that I saw. I would love to work with you on it. And honestly, that's how it just kind of began. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Joant asked me to do it, at that point in time, I had pretty recently moved back to Singapore from the US. And it was really exciting to me, this notion of going out and finding out about my country, but a country that I'd never been an adult in, so it was like a very personal journey for me, and like an undertaking of like my own understanding of what Singapore meant. Yeah.
I'm sure since you go out and you kind of capture images, but what's the strategy behind it? How do you derive to this form? Other than the fact that, of course, it's inspired by La Jolie May, which itself has different topics, and there's a lot more talking heads in it. I mean, talking, just people talking. But of course, they focus on the unions and like a clothes salesman and all over Paris itself. But then, what leads? How do you find these people? Like, is it you just take a car and drop yourself somewhere? I know National Day is perhaps one marker, because I guess you do need to get tickets for it. But then what about the rest? How do you come across, say, the guy flying a kite, which is one of my favorite characters, next to the I come here for the vibe guy from the Kingdom. Okay, I said it. Okay. Yeah, how do you go about doing this on like, constructing this?
So I think like right from the get-go, before we ever filmed anything, the few things that we prepared were our list of interview questions, and also we talked a lot, not just about La Jolie Mai as a reference, but Sementara, which has a similar tone, and a few other films. And we were kind of, we knew, I don't know, how did we really start? How did we even pick the first place? Well, the very first place, actually, we met up with a friend who helped us with the translation for the Kite Fighters interview. Actually, Isha is his name, and I remember I rented a small little one of those like study cubby holes at NLB at Junction 8, and we were talking about the film, kind of like, Isha, will you help us with this translation? And I feel like he was a great person, knew like the ins and outs of Singapore, rides on his motorcycle every day in his white and blue slippers. And then after that, we went to the hawker center, thinking maybe we'll get a drink, and then we met the cartoonist, who is the guy who talks about Singapore being racialist, not racist. That was our first interview, and then from then on, we kind of like, it was a mixture of wanting to cover various neighborhoods. And the more we filmed, every time we picked up one piece that we felt very strongly about, we wanted to contextualize the information in that interview with, the opposite in a sense, or like the wider view on it. Yeah.
Yeah, most of those people actually that you see were at random.
Yes.
We just walk around and we say, this person looks interesting, or this person might be interesting. And we just start talking to them and we explain what we're doing. And at that time, we're saying this is a documentary about people and what we want to learn about them. And if you're willing to be in this. And once they say, yeah, like she starts talking to them already without me really preparing, because what we want to do is not intimidate the subject with a huge camera and lights and nothing. We just go guerrilla style, one microphone and then one attached to a camera. And if she starts going, it's okay. I'll just set up eventually, from a distance, so they're not intimidated. And that is kind of our technical game plan to get someone in that mode to talk to us for an hour or two. And I think that's kind of how we approached everyone, and that's how we decided to go. Almost every subject you see was approached that way.
So 80-90% of it was just Joant and I, and if we had anybody else that day, it was mostly a translator. And he was saying that like they would speak to us for long periods of time, and that was like the real surprise, because we thought like these people that we'd stop off the streets, like they probably have things to do. Maybe we can get by for 10 minutes if we're lucky. But these conversations, as we had these conversations, they were just happy to chat. It became 20, 40 minutes, an hour. We'd just be sitting, hanging out. Yeah.
Okay. But what I also want to know is, do you have like a forward motion in, you're going around looking at interesting people and interviewing them. You have a set of questions, but do you at any earlier point have an overview of what Sementara is going to be in this current form that you released?
I can't say that we exactly knew 100% that it was going to be like this 100%, but I can tell you that we had these certain bigger themes in mind that you see throughout the film. And when there's discussion about romance and love and being a couple or not, that's something that we felt from the beginning that should be in there, and that hopefully we can get it. And so we have that kind of anchor for us to follow. And all these other themes, religion was definitely a big one. And the main question was like, why do people do the things that they do? And I think that kind of drove us. And when you answer that question, you get into these other subjects. So the general theme, if you edit the film by themes, I think that was generally more or less set. Obviously, we need to piece it with real, tangible film and footage, but we knew the feeling that when you finish the film and when you kind of think about it, that's what we wanted the audience to see.
Okay. So how long do you take to, think that we should stop and let's, put things together? How long did it take between the beginning to the final cut?
Yeah, so I guess from our very first day of principal photography was the day Lee Kuan Yew died. Months beforehand, we were preparing to start shooting, and we knew that this might have a part to play in the film, because it's hard to make a city film about Singapore without touching on this in some way. And like the general public knew that he was like ill, at the time. But then the day he died, like actually it was a Monday, if I remember correctly. And I just quit my full-time job on Friday, and Joant was in Hong Kong, and we were thinking that like, okay, when Joant comes back from Hong Kong, I'm gonna get a few days of rest, and then we'll start proper. But then on Monday he passed away, and it was like all systems go. That was our first year shoot, and then it kind of like tied up nicely that August 9th was our SG50 National Day.
Right.
So in that period between March and August, we were filming 4 or 5 days a week. And then after that, we were mostly doing kind of like pickup shots. Like we did have other shoot days, but they were to plug gaps, to provide a different perspective, that kind of thing.
Okay, all in all, like how like months, like a year, I think 2015 to
Yeah, so we filmed March 2015 to August 2015. That was kind of like our
yes.
The book was there.
Yeah.
All the bulk of it was included within that.
There was things throughout that year, later that year, the next year,
Yeah.
that we picked up.
Yeah.
But that was just like she said, to kind of polish it and to kind of finish and end there.
Okay.
I would say that the burst of energy came from that period that she mentioned.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of important to us that the film was not just geographically located in Singapore, but also located in time, in this like particular kind of special moment in time in Singapore between LQI's death and SG50.
So that's your like personal SG50 project.
Yeah, we had so many
Okay.
projects that year, but this one was one of them too.
Okay.
I think that we got inspired to show things that we weren't seeing in SG50 though. It's a very important element because it wasn't a SG50 film as much as it was a film that we weren't seeing in SG50.
Mm-hmm. And releasing it in 2020, I think that kind of lends the correct perspective, and not, or else it'd be just another SG50.
Yeah,
numerous SG50 projects we are looking at. So that's pretty good. You have interviewed a lot of people. Like, can you perhaps single out one or two that you wish that you could include more of? I have my picks, but since it's your film, please let us know who you think could even have his or her own trajectory that you want to explore even more.
Oh boy. So many in so many different ways, and also so many interviews that never made it into the film at all.
That I can surmise.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite that you would love to have?
I can't say that I have a favorite that I would love to expand more, but I would love to have expanded and investigated more on this subject named Mohammed, who was at after the Wear White event where they were talking about certain issues of LGBT. We interviewed him for a bit. We interviewed him longer in real time, but I do wish that we followed that a bit more and followed him and maybe some people that were attending that event as well, because we wanted to, I'm just curious actually to see where that all goes further on when after us, where does those conversations land? Where do they go? What is he thinking after? So that scene is definitely one I wish, we could expand a bit more on.
What were your choices for it? Like, which ones do you want to hear more?
More like I would like to spend more time perhaps with not just the kite flying uncle, but that group of people, because I personally do not see them in enough. This group of people, which is all around us, obviously. Having a platform or like featured in films or documentaries enough, I think. And I think that is a whole generation of Singaporeans that has to perhaps lived with being represented only in Jack Neo movies, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think, put that aside, then, what they really are and how they see themselves, how they see Singapore, genuine, the way you do, the way how you run this documentary. I would definitely go for it. A lot more. Yeah. That's my take.
I think I feel similarly to you, and like I even have a whole I have this script that I'm writing right now, which is about people of that generation. And yeah, well, it's actually like it's a buddy comedy road trip movie. It's set in Singapore, where these two people in the older generation get to go on a road trip across Singapore on a tricycle path. Yeah.
On the what?
On a tricycle path.
Okay, I heard Jurassic Park, but must be the rain. Okay, we'll look forward to it. Unfortunately, I think we have a lot more to talk about. But let's end with one more question. Do you know the film that came out just before Le Joli Mai, the French film, Chronicles of a Summer, which takes on similar verite vibes or direct cinema vibes, where Jean Rouge and Edgar Morin, the acknowledged. So they went around and asked people they meet in Paris, are you happy? That's it. The whole thing goes, right? So there is, subsequently, there's a 20 years later, or 30 years later, an updated version. Do you see yourself in this mode, in 10, 20 years time?
That would be so nice, right? But I don't think so necessarily. I feel like, because it's like, for me, it's the characters are super interesting, but like a lot of the film for me is about Singapore at this one place at this one time. It's not as much of like, who are these characters and what are their life trajectories. What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a time capsule that we want to capture, and that hopefully maybe people in the future can look back at it, find that film, and say, this is what life was at that time. And maybe they will get inspired to do a similar city film in whatever city they are, not just in Singapore, because I think first and primarily this is something about humans and where they are and the time they're in. And so this can be anywhere. This can be done anywhere. And so, we hope that this film will take someone to that place. So maybe also 5 years again, I don't know, I have that in me. I'm already, half insane. So I don't know if I want to do another 5 years for a follow-up, but we'll see. We'll think about it.
But you'll be involved in the road trip movie that is going to drive you half insane, the other half insane too, I guess. But we'll look forward to that, your subsequent films. And we should keep in touch with the festival. And perhaps we'll see you at one of the screenings as well. Yeah, with our mask on. Yes. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you to the festival for giving the film a chance, and thank you to all the audiences that's seen it in physical cinema and also online. We've been getting a lot of messages, so it feels worth it actually to do this. So it inspires us a lot. Thank you.